Namaskar. Good morning, friends. Warm welcome to the 4-day Poswal Literature Festival with participation of BIMSTEC countries, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Myanmar, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Thailand, which is being organized online by Sahitya Academy and Foundation of Sark Writers and Literature. The festival was inaugurated yesterday on 6th November 2022 and today on 7th November, this is the fifth session of the festival, which is devoted to fiction reading. And this session is being chaired by Sri K.V. Dominic, and we have with us Kamarul Bahar Arifji from Bangladesh, Sri Om Dwivedi from India, and from Nepal, we will expecting to join Sri Ayak Prasad Duwadi. So now may we start this session with the reading of Kamarul Bahar Arifji, who is a renowned poet and fiction writer also from Bangladesh. Arif sir.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Rajit Kaur, the president of Postal Literature Festival, who honored me by inviting me. Best wishes and love to their this session president and all participants of Postal Literature Festival. I am Kamarul Bahar Arif, mainly practicing poetry. The work of fiction has not become. Also, reading in English will be a bit difficult for me as my mother tongue is Bengali. I will try to. Please excuse me if any mistake. I'll talk about the favorite author, Syed Shamsul Haq, and his book Anonder Mrityu as of my fiction. Heading: Poet Syed Shamsul Haq is an awakened Nuruddin. Poet Syed Shamsul Haq, who floated to the shore and raised the flag of victory. Syed Haq is comfortable calling himself a poet and a son of Banu. 1952. But he is equally mighty to contemporary Bengali literature in stories, novel, and plays. Even in children literature, his songwriter, essay, criticism, he is unique in his own way by spreading his sense of self. Therefore, he remained the writer of consciousness at the peak of jealousy in the characteristics of contemporary Bengali literature. But Syed Haq's presentation style is also different from other uniques. Even though he was a poet, he was able to convey poetics in his prose to another being, to himself, which very few poets have been able to do. But prose also has rhythm, which has to be understood by ear. He confirmed that in his prose. So Shamsul Haq, who started his journey by publishing his first story called Uddanto in the newspaper Ajanta, edited by Fazle Lohani at the age of 15. Crossed the ups and downs of discussion and criticism and was honored with the Bangla Academy Award at the age of 33. So Shamsul Haq is one of the few multidimensional genius born after Rabindranath. Due to the influence of his creative being, Various fields of story, novels, drama, and essay of Bengali literature have become fruitful. Industry and society above all. The multi-line collusion of responsibility towards the motherland has made him constantly alive in the Sabyasachi practice. He has repeatedly expressed his nationalist spirit and non-communal thinking through his writing and has tirelessly tried to awaken or spread the value of our great freedom. Banno or 1952's language movement has shaken him, moved him. As he enhanced the reader through his writing, he has done so forever. The storybook Anonder Mrityu or Death of Joy may not be his timeless book, but the taste with which he appeared to the reader in reading the storybook arranged with 11 stories, especially the movement of the middle class existence, biased the identity of his own skill in his deep understanding and presentation. In this story, Krishna, the unreal desire of a perfect love and spread on the canvas, one after the other by a single stroke of cotton, and he is also addicted to morphia to save himself from drawing in the sea of suffering. Ahmed Yusuf loved Jorina in the story, for which he wanted to make Zorina novel with everything, but mind and reason do not go together. Life becomes gray. So let's look at Ahmed Yusuf, the main character of the story, taking another path of his seizure. He uttered himself, God, if I were two-person God, if we are two Ahmed Yusuf Khan, two true, one soul, one mind, one feeling only, if I had two bodies, if I were. Thus again and again, in the same utterance, experience the peaceful longing of the failure of the dream desire. One of the two bodies would drown one in the ocean of grief for Jorina. The grief would consume him, and a body succeeding in the earthly struggles, like an emperor enjoying his sorrows with pity, sustaining with secret sympathy. Again, in the story of Shada Pahader Moto or like White Mountain, the arrival of a young male and female couple at the hotel in the mysterious behavior of the relationship, as well as the different relationship of the three friends, take them into the deep fog and again light the candle of traditional love and passion. To me, Kobi or poet, the story of the Anonder Mrityu or Death of Happiness story seems to be one of the wealth of Bengali short stories. A village 17 miles from the city in the natural beauty is bloody, complex, and decadent reality of village life deep in the soul. The village where the abundance canal follows. There is a dinghy boat. Compassion comes to meet Auntie, a young urbanite who rides dominant uncle. Her brother is opposite-minded, noble yet silent or So to speak a man without his own existence, and Abdul Rab Munshi is a village poet. Abdul Rab Munshi is the poet of his story, the main character. All around him is the vision of the story and the scared appearance of rural flip. Yet here the poet always shines in his utter disregard for him, in his miracles torture, even in the love for him. In the poet's modesty, shame of determination, the poet is everywhere in his glory. At the beginning of the acquaintance with a poet from a rural environment, a writing from the city is so hastened in the growing urban thoughts. I could not understand. I felt I need to say something. I said, I heard you write poetry. Nowhere. Abdul Rab Munshi said with a clear voice. Then he laughed as if he had been caught. I don't get time for family work. Then maybe the thought it was not said enough. She added, our composition will be good for you. I did not learn education. There was a Hossain Boyati. There was a Jamal Hossain Boyati in the village, and during my childhood, I had master used to write very good prose. I am writing in my own house, watching them. Menshi মানসে অনর্থক আমারে কবি সাপ কয়. I am nothing. On the other hand, a poet who has made a living in the nature of the village, that his father and grandfather did. Who does that person write poetry? What is the thought of his poetry? What is his responsibility? The poet himself says, I think that what I see on the side is not different from me. If I feel upset, Vince also speak up. When I have child, I can see the picture all around. I think my grandfather is also seeing these winds, clouds, moon, sun. They are all seeing. They are exhausted. We are coming. We are also watching those who have left the scattered in the midst of all this. What I write, I base on that. I hear from the clouds, the sun, the leaf. I want to mix his own feeling. Do, you don't listen to me, the laugh. How many of you are crazy? Huh? That when I see the perfection of a poet, what laughs from the winds and leaves, the moon, the sun, the star, the tradition, how much we like it. The daily motivation to live, in addition, some people in the society, the blindness of pride and influence of nobility turn people into cruel, inhuman lives. The poet means that he will present the truth. No love of money can ever break him. No fear of bloodshot eyes death overcomes him. He stands on his truth and does not care about his illusion of life. The poet of this story, poet is like that. Altaf Talukdar, an influenced tyrant and fraudster of the village, stands in the election. He is supported by another influencer known in the story as Phupajan. When the Phupajan asked the poet Abdul Rab Munshi to compose a song about Altaf Talukdar to campaigning for the election, the poet categorically rejected the proposal because almost all of the poet's poems are about nature, season, concert, centered, or God's glory, or are dedicated to the mysterious, ever distant omen. How can he sing the lies of the corrupt people of the society? So he chooses his own truth, ignoring all fear and torture. The poet expressed one truth. Talukdar Sahib stood in the election. Cooper Sahib was his supporter. No matter how colorful it is during the polls, you know. There is a turn, there is a twist. The song comes out. The colorful boards come out. The song is played. That song is sung in the market. Mr. Cooper sent him news to meet. He could not come that day. The next day, people went to him again. They brought Munshi Sahib in a boat. Cooper Sahib said, Munshi, it is good to compose song. Did you hear? Talukdar Sahib is raising the election. If you don't pass him, there is no good for area. Do you understand? It is not that I will not respect you because of the work of the country. Talukdar Sahib knows how to set the honor of genius. And what about me? What are you silent? Write a song with your waist bag. I don't have time. The voice poet Abdul Rahman Munshi sounds like thunderbolt. Mr. Cooper roared. What did you say? What is less? There is no time. Is your head okay? You don't have time to search a big job. Say the right in front of me. The poet is silent. Listen to what you are saying. I cannot compose music. Why? Cooper says, narrowed in anger and surprise. His voice sounded like a thin knife. Munshi Sahib replied, why do you ask me to write songs for people who are not human? How you are tongue to speak, Munshi, in the forest. You have to fight the tiger. Don't say big things in the eyes. Walk with respect and respected one. Go next day. I will listen to your song in the morning. Listen to 1 or 10. I have no problem. What is the song for? There are 10 of you. You listen. I write song. I don't make the request of the Khan Sahib. It is not possible to compose my song about Talukdar Sahib. Do you not agree then? No. There is no poet in the country without you. There is. You do not do the good job, Munshi. Brother, look at that, you said. That is still an apology. What will you do? I gave my word. Who is a not human, whose hand is not done a single work of the poor, whose belly in the world in one mouth, whose belly is one word in one mouth. I will compose a song about him who has one word in his stomach and one word in his mouth. What do you say, Khan Sahib? The next image.
আরিফ
How
সাহাব,
cruel.
আর কত বাকি আছে?
One page. Just
কেন,
one page.
15 মিনিটের ইয়ে আছে তো, লিমিট আছে তো, অন্য লোক তো টাইম পাবে না।
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks again the organizer of the inviting me. Hope to see you again physically anywhere in the beautiful world. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kamrul Bahar Arif ji, for his presentation. Though it is incomplete, but we are running short time, so we have to interrupt him. Now may I request Sri Om Dwivedi ji, who is from India, to read out his section.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So before I begin, I must express my gratitude to Madam Ajit Kaurji, President, Foundation of SARC Writers and Literature, and Dr. K.S. Rao, Secretary Sahitya Academy. So I am Dr. Om Dwivedi, and I teach English literature in the School of Liberal Arts at Merit University, a university which is run by Times Media Group in Greater Noida. So I'm not a writer, but I'm more of a literary critic, and it feels good to be here. And I'm also very delighted to see Professor K.V. Dominic finally, at least in the virtual world. So today I'm going to read a novel by Tabish Khair, and it happens to be his latest release, and the novel is titled The Body by the Shore. So I will be reading from his epilogue, and this epilogue is important because it deals with two things. It brings two perspectives. One is the perspective of our heightening fear of immigrants. And second is what Khair does very beautifully is he tries to tell us that all forms of life on this planet are interconnected. So here we go. The stories never end. We just decide to tell other stories. Scientists recently identified stardust that's 7 billion years old, tucked away in a meteorite, a massive rock that fell in Australia in 1969. It contains pre-solar grains 4 billion years older than our sun. So, when we start telling the story of life on Earth, how far do we go? To the birth of farming 10,000 years ago? To the first Homo sapiens in Africa 300,000 years ago? To the Neanderthals who preceded us and still linger in our genetic inheritance? To the first animal? To the first eukaryotes? To the first microbe? To the creational dance of amino acids on Earth 4 billion years ago? To the birth of the sun and the planets from the solar nebula 4.6 billion years ago, to the Big Bang 13.8 billion years ago. And beyond that, beyond what we conveniently call singularity, which is the point where human thoughts and equations stop. Or take this smaller and seemingly easier trail. Your human cell hold up to 25,000 genes, but there are at least 12 million genes, other genes inside you too. But there are at least 12 million other genes inside you too. They belong to the microbes in your body. Some microbes are useful to us. All except 100 or so are harmless. Now, what is story? Out of those 12 million and 25,000 possible stories, do you want to tell me as your individual story? Every paper has its own take, but the story is in all of them. She looks at her father, who is sitting there in her flat, sipping from the mug of tea that she has just brewed and handed him. He hates tea, so she knows he is making an effort for her. He has told her his story, how he had not been able to forget the body of that black man. He has made an effort and said, sort, not nigger. She looks at him in a way that he pretends not to appreciate. Far, she says, so you do care what about what happens to strangers? Hump, replies Jens Eric, his face assuming that obstinate looks he knows so well. I care about what happens in my country. Homo sapiens is the only species on Earth that produces junk. This is interesting, no? Not excrement, not waste, junk. Our planet fills with junk. We eat junk food. We even eat junk human beings. Parents, class friends, ex-partners, anti-nationals, Jews, Palestinians, Yazidis, Rohingya. It is a never-ending list. Our civilizations can be indexed against it. But for a species drowning in junk, we think we are perfect. Little surprised that when we decoded our genes, we were expecting it all to be, perfect. Except that it wasn't. Most of our DNAs were superfluous. It seemed that 98% of the DNAs in a human cell are just freeloaders, bums, welfare queens, refugees, anti-nationals, discards, rejects, dole recipients, aliens, retards, sitting around doing nothing. Stuff that should not be there. Being who we are, Homo sapiens, we called them junk genes, except that they were not. They are not. They have their roles, some immediate, some perspective. They are part of a dance we cannot see because we can only see ourselves dancing. They are not junk. Nature, it appears, does not create junk. In that, we Homo junkians are unnatural. Mermaid returns to the organization he works for, or to some other, it hardly matters. They exist on the shadowy margins of government and corporations. They're all powerful and totally ineffectual. Mermaid knows it, and that is why he stays with them. To them, he is probably junk. To Harris, he is undead. He cannot manage to talk to Harris into joining him. I'm now reading the last paragraph and I will stop. If microbes were to be eliminated from the earth, many infectious diseases would disappear. But much of life would disappear too. Grazing animals need microbes to break down the fibers of plants. Insects need them. Fish, worms, shellfish need them. It would be over for most of them within days or weeks. Humans would survive a bit longer, maybe even for a few years. But without microbes, to produce the nitrogen that plants need, the earth will be shorn of green plants within months. Our flock of animals would be dead too. Slowly, we would perish painfully. So that's it from the Body of Shore by Tabish Khair. And thanks again to all the fellow panelists for giving me a patient listening.
Thank you very much, Om Dwivedi ji. Now may I request Sri Ak Prasad Dwivedi from Nepal to read out his piece of fiction. Dwivedi ji, please unmute yourself.
Thank you very much, sir. Warmest greetings from Nepal to our respected Madam Adit Kaur ji, and esteemed panelists. Okay. So, sir, since I'm not used to with Zoom, how to make myself in your position, I mean, to be seen on the screen. Am I visible there? Just to confirm.
You are visible, you are audible, perfect.
All right. But I'm not able to go to the speaker's mode.
That is not required, doctor, because all of us are speakers, right?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for the confirmation. Well, I'm going to read a small chapter from my debut book, which was published in 2011 by Third Eye Publication. And it's a small chapter, about 500 words. So I won't take much time and save time for the upcoming speakers. Well, about myself, I'm an associate professor teaching English and professional skills in schools across the schools in Kathmandu University, Nepal. I've been teaching here since 2005, and I've participated in social conferences twice, face to face, and two webinars like this. So I'm quite familiar to visual, and I feel that we are members of the same family. So the title of my article is God's Greatest Gift. The birth of a daughter spells doom for a father, or so the cliche goes. Women are still held responsible for the sex of the fetus, despite scientific evidence that clearly shows that it is a father's gene that determines the child's sex. Modern techniques like ultrasound make it easy for the parents to determine the sex of the fetus. It is still not uncommon to find families who advise the husband to abort the female fetus. I think the problem is ubiquitous all over South Asia. It is still not uncommon to find the families who advise the husband to abort the female fetus. Though they may not, they may tout equality of the sexes, the principle seldom applies to their own family. I confess that I wanted a son when my wife got pregnant first time, but I wasn't adverse to the idea of having a daughter either. My only reservation was that a daughter would place additional responsibilities on my head very quickly. And though my wife underwent ultrasound a couple of times, I never wanted to know about the baby's sex. Most of the family members, including my mother, wanted a boy. I tried to convince them that the birth of either a boy or a girl will bring equal joy to our family. The day of reckoning soon arrived, and my wife had to be hospitalized with protracted labor. While I waited outside the hospital under the chilly sky all night, eagerly waiting for some news about my wife, a man by my side cursed, "If it is a girl, I'll give her off and get a new wife." Another butted in, "I cannot trust a woman, not even my mother," while a third offered a thundering rebuttal. "All relationships depend on trust. How dare you demean women like that?" But I was much too occupied to focus on their petty talk. Unable to rein in my enthusiasm, I hurried up to my wife on the fourth floor. Next morning, a young nurse emerged with a baby in her hands. She's a Lakshmi. I cannot explain the bliss that descended upon me as I held the little thing in my arms. It was an added relief to know that both the mother and daughter were in good health. This was the start of most amazing day of my life. I recall the conversation among the men outside, how silly they were. On the day my spouse was discharged, the man who had questioned woman's fidelity accosted me. "Dai," means brother, "my wife has not given birth yet. The doctor says she's having complications." I couldn't help but pity the poor fellow. This is all from my side. And finally, would like to thank Kushal once again, and I look forward to collaborate with all delegates who are present here.
Thank you very much, Dwadi ji. Now, may I request Sri K.V. Dominic ji, who is chairing this session, to read out his piece of fiction.
Thanks a lot, dear sir, for your sweet words. Let me first of all express my deep gratitude to Madam Adit Kaurji for inviting me to this mega literature festival. Madam Adit ji is so loving, and an elder sister to me. Actually, she is a sister and mother to all members of Postwar family. So loving, so gentle, a lady who is so adorable. My deep gratitude once again, madam. I express my gratitude to Sahitya Academy as well. Let me introduce myself. I am Dr. K.V. Dominic, retired Associate Professor of English from Newman College, Todupuzha in Kerala State, India. I have 46 books to my credit, consisting of poetry collections, short story books, edited anthologies, and critical books. Besides, I am the editor of 2 international refereed biannual Journal of English Literature. This is what about me. Now, coming to my story. I am going to present here my own short story entitled World Environment Day. It was originally published in my short story collection titled Who is Responsible, published by Authors Press, New Delhi in 2016. This story has a relevance today, particularly when COP27 climate summit is going on in Egypt. So it is environmental in theme. This story has won much acclaim, and it was chosen as the best story for an anthology. With this very brief introduction, I come to my story. Let me read. World Environment Day. Kattu Raja is the most sought out forest thief in Karnataka, India. As his name suggests, he is the king of the forest. 6-footed, sturdy youth of 30. He is ebony black with a twisted mustache on his ferocious face. In addition to thousands of costly trees he has stolen, he has hunted many wild animals and even elephants for their tusks. The state government has offered 10 lakh rupees for those who point out him to the courts. He has ambushed the forest guards several times, but fortunately, none was killed. Kattu Raja is the illegitimate son of a tribal woman named Kanni. At the age of 16, when Kanni was collecting firewood in the forest, 2 strange poachers raped her and left. Though she reported the matter to her parents, they were not dare enough to complain to the police station, which was several kilometers away from their hut. Moreover, it was a futile attempt to complain since tribal people's wails were never heeded by the government. Illiterate Kanni gave birth to a son and he lived among other tribal children of the forest as a bastard. Kandi was married to a youth when Katuraja was only 2 years old. Thus, Katuraja lived with his grandparents, despised by all except his mother. Occasionally, his mother visited him and presented him sweets and delicacies which he liked the most. Katuraja grew up from teenage to youth, fed by anger and revenge to the establishment and the world which discarded him as an outcast. The tribal people there lived in a very miserable situation. They didn't get any financial assistance from the government, even though crores were allotted to them, which were misappropriated and looted by the government officials. There were no hospitals, schools, or even good roads for them. They survived on with what the nature fed them through the forest: tubers, honey, fish from brooks, meat of small animals like rat, rabbit, wild boar, etc. Katuraja was sent to a school in the nearby village and got primary education. This education opened his eyes and he learned how his people were exploited by the government and forest mafia. Becoming a youth, he decided to alleviate financial difficulties of his neighborhood by working as a forest thief. He was helped by his friends there and started cutting costly trees of forest, teak, sandalwood, rosewood, mahogany, etc., and sold them to agents of timber merchants. They did it in the thick of forest, where forest guards seldom patrolled. It was the money they earned thus which were distributed to the poor families for various purposes, such as purchasing dresses from the town, getting treatment for the sick, etc. Katuraja never had any guilt of conscience for his illegal act, but took it as a sweet revenge to the government for marginalizing them. 5th June 2011, World Environment Day. Katuraja was all alone in the forest and was trying to axe a teak. Being their own day, the forest and its inhabitants were celebrating. Gentle breeze kissed and stroked all trees, birds, and animals. One could sense the mirth of the nature from the chirping of birds, laughing of leaves, mating calls, and other happy cries of animals. The teak sensed the advent of its death and cried for help. Insensible to human beings, the cry reached the ears of elephants grazing on the mound nearby. Isn't it an alarming cry of a tree? The tusker asked the cow elephants. True, we shall not allow any human being to trespass our dwelling place this special day. The other elephants replied. Let's charge then, the tusker said. Katuraja lifted his axe to cut, and the elephants rushed to him roaring. Frightened, he shot up the tree like a rocket. The elephant stood beneath the tree, waiting for the descent. The teak thanked the elephants through its rustling applause. Katuraja, who has never been timid in his youth, started shivering. It seemed that the tree was talking to him. Dear friend, What harm have I done to you to instigate you to kill me? See how I became your savior. What harm have this forest and its animals done to you? Haven't you felled thousands of trees and hundreds of animals? You and your people survive only because of our presence. Who will axe the branch he sits on? If you continue to destroy this forest, how and where will those elephants and other animals live? I am sorry, dear tree. Kindly forgive me. Katuraja started weeping with clasped palms. He then spoke in a loud voice to the entire forest. In the name of this forest, I promise you all that I will no more trouble you. Please pardon me for the crimes I have done. I will be your friend from this moment and devote my life for the preservation of this forest. His voice echoed in the forest, and his conversion was welcomed by the entire forest with cheers. The trees swayed and danced, birds twittered, animals cried in joy. The elephants standing below went back swinging their trunks in happiness. With a sigh of relief, Katuraja climbed down the tree and thanked it once again for saving his life. He went to his house, changed a dress, and went straight to the magistrate's office in the nearby town. He got permission to get into the magistrate's room. He told the magistrate, "Honorable sir, I am Katuraja, the sought-out forest thief. I have come to surrender. I would like to do penance for the crimes I have committed. You may arrest me." The magistrate gave orders for his arrest. He told him, "It's a great thing that you have surrendered. You will be jailed now, and inquest will be done. You can tell the court whatever you want when the trial comes." Katuraja was sent to the district jail. As part of the inquest, he was taken by the police to the forest several times. He admitted all charges against him and pointed out the places of the forest where he felled the trees. After a month, he was brought to the court for the trial. The public prosecutor pleaded for the government and presented the crimes Katuraja had committed. Katuraja had no advocates to defend him, and he accepted all the charges presented by the public prosecutor. The judge then asked Katuraja if he had anything to state or plead before the court. Katuraja replied, "Your Honor, it is true that I have committed unpardonable crimes and did a lot of damage to the forest. I now sincerely feel that I should not have been so hostile to the forest and the environment. I should have abided to the laws of the government and supported it in its activities for the welfare of the people and the nature. You may punish me, but if the government is mercy enough, I can devote the rest of my life for the conservation and preservation of the forest. I have destroyed. The court may kindly believe my words that I will no more break the laws of the government, but will support to the best of my ability all welfare projects. If you allow me, I will make an action force in the forest with my friends and along with them volunteer for the preservation and conservation of the forests. We will not allow any intruders to exploit the forest anymore. As a penance for the crimes I have done, we will plant thousands of trees in the forest and thus make it the best forest in the world. The judge replied, the court is happy to hear such good words from you. Taking your words for granted, the court is giving you a light punishment for the innumerable crimes you have committed. You are going to be imprisoned for 1 year, and it is a test dose as to see if your conversion is genuine or not. If you prove your goodness of heart, you will be released then. And then, as you promised, you can make the action force and serve the forest. Katturaja was imprisoned in the district jail, and he was a model prisoner, a favorite of the jail authorities as well as the fellow prisoners. He thus showed that he is a purified and sanctified being. 5th June 2012, World Environment Day. The court released Katturaja and allowed him to go back to the forest. The forest welcomed sanctified Katturaja, clapping leaves. Gentle breeze stroked him. Birds sang his welcome music. Monkeys chatted and led him to the midst of forests. Elephants grazing on the meadow sensed his arrival and trumpeted. It was a grand homecoming for Katturaja. The forest accepted him as its savior Raja. As pledged and promised, Katturaja made an action force with his friends. The team of energetic 20 youths started afforestation wherever barren lands were found. The forest guards had no duty at all, since Katturaja's team never allowed any trespassers to steal the forest. After 2 years, the forest became a model to the world, and the country nominated Katturaja and his team for the United Nations Forest for People Award. Thank you very much. That's the end of the story.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dominic, for a marvelous piece of fiction. Now, on the behalf of Sahitya Academy and अजित कौर जी कुछ बोलेंगी क्या?
I want to thank Dominic for such a beautiful story.
Thank you, madam. It is all because you are blessings.
Prashad from Nepal. Om Dwivedi for his brilliant paper. All his billions of years puzzled me, but they were wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, madam, and thank you very much all our participants for being with us. We invite our audience to share our link of this program on Twitter or other social handles or for the lovers of literature. It will be pleasure for all of us to explore a new world by Poswal and Sahitya Academy. And now we will ending this session, and again we will start other session at 12:30, which is a paper presentation session. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you.